Hey everyone, so what the heck is Fanocracy and why can we use this for our business? Today, I get to talk with David Meerman Scott. David Meerman Scott is an internationally acclaimed business strategist. He's an entrepreneur and advisor to emerging companies and a public speaker. He's also the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of, get this, 10 previous books. This one is going to make 11, I'm sure of it, including The New Rules of Marketing and PR, now in a 6th edition and available in 29 languages. He's got marketing lessons from the Grateful Dead. He's got the new rules of sales and service and other great stuff. And in his spare time, he surfs and he travels around the world for great live music. And David is a huge Deadhead and one of the smartest people I know. 15 years ago, we connected at an 800 CEO Read event back before social media was a thing. And now David has blown up and has just knocked out of the park with Fanocracy. So David, it's great to see you again, my friend.
Hey, so great to be here. That 800 CEO Read event, they're now called Porch Light Books.
I know.
Interestingly, I met so many cool people at that event. I met Nick Morgan at that event. I met Sally Hogshead at that event. I mean, that was like an epic group of people.
Yeah, we had such a good time. You know, Sally's Fascinate book came out of that space.
And it's so cool. So cool.
So, yep. So I remember. So David, let's do a quick history here, and then let's move into this because I think it's important. So one of the things, even 15 years ago, that you talked about, and that is letting your ideas go free. Yeah. Meaning, stop gating all your best stuff and preventing your customers from actually getting your work. So has that changed, or is that even more important now?
Not at all. It's actually maybe even more important. And here's why this is so important, because we studied actually the neuroscience aspect of this. My daughter is my co-author on my new book, Fanocracy. We looked at the idea of giving a gift. And we humans are hardwired to appreciate a gift that has no expectation of anything in return. But when you give a gift and you have some sort of coercion attached to it, which is what a lot of people do, for example, by offering a white paper with the requirement that you have to fill out an email form first, that's not conducive to building fans. I first learned about this from my favorite band right over my shoulder here.
The Grateful Dead.
That was nicely done. Let's do that again.
Bum.
The Grateful Dead. That was really well done. The Grateful Dead. So the Grateful Dead allowed fans to record their concerts. Every other concert ticket, every other band, no recording allowed. The Grateful Dead said, sure, why not? You can record our music. And so I learned about this idea of giving away your content for free starting when I was 17 years old. When I first started to go to Grateful Dead concerts, because people would trade the tapes around. It was a social network before Mark Zuckerberg was even born. And so those ideas apply all over the place. Another really cool example that we wrote about in our book, Fanocracy, is Duracell batteries. So Duracell batteries in the offline world, what they do is when there's a natural disaster, hurricane, flood, tornado, something like that, and power is out, they have a team of Duracell trucks that travels to the disaster site to give away free Duracell batteries, totally free.
Wow.
No obligation at all. Now, what's really interesting, Phil, about this is when batteries are in the most demand. People need batteries when the power goes out. You know, they're searching for their flashlight. Oh, look, I found my flashlight. Oh my God, the batteries are dead. And so they give away batteries for free. And they give away literally hundreds of thousands of batteries a year this way. And it helps to build fans. And putting your content out with no gate helps to build fans. So I've just been so geeky over the last 5 years about learning how fans are developed and fandom is developed.
Awesome. So fandom, it's so interesting because we see even musicians that now have moved to no cell phones, put it in a bag, nothing, the exact opposite of the Dead. And I got to say, that might be really nice for the quality of music out there because, you know, who is it? Pete Davidson. He actually, you have to sign an NDA that says you won't even quote his stuff. And
oh, wow.
That's just so counter to the Fanocracy thing. And you know, why do people have that scarce mindset, David?
Well, the music thing, the very first time I experienced that was a Jack White concert, and they put my phone into this special case thing, and you carry the case around, and they pull the phone out at the end of the show, and that was a different experience, and that was because Jack White didn't want people taking photos, and okay, I kind of get that, whatever. But here's the thing that I find most interesting. This is from a personal experience, and you'll appreciate this, Phil. As you know, I wrote a book and started a movement about 10 years ago called newsjacking.
Yep.
Right. And newsjacking is when you follow what's going on in the news and create a piece of real-time content and put that real-time content out in order to get perhaps quoted by the media or generate attention from people. What it does is it turns the content equation on its ear. Instead of you saying, here's my stuff, look at it now, you look for when it's most needed, and then you see it. So here's what's interesting about what I did with newsjacking. Everybody was advising me to trademark the term newsjacking. I could have done that. I own the URL. I did a book called Newsjacking. I was writing blog posts about newsjacking, and I chose not to trademark newsjacking because I wanted to share the ideas. I wanted people to freely talk about this concept. And this turned out to be the best move ever, because today, this is 10 years later, every single day, people are talking about newsjacking. They're using the hashtag newsjacking. They're blogging about newsjacking. There's agencies that have developed to do newsjacking. And just about a year ago, newsjacking was named to the Oxford English Dictionary, and it's got my name attached to it, which is amazing. Because I let go of this idea and I let other people take it, it got way bigger than if I had tried to do it myself. And I'm doing exactly the same thing with the word Fanocracy. Fanocracy, title of my new book. I own fanocracy.com, the URL. If you go to Google, I'm at the top, but I don't try to own that word. My publisher wanted me to trademark Fanocracy. My agent wanted me to trademark Fanocracy. Many people, when I tell them about it, say, oh, you must have gotten the trademark for that, right? Nope, didn't get the trademark, because I want people to share my ideas.
Love that. Love that. And grateful that you've done that. And I love the ROI of that. That is huge. The fact that, we have this big, let's say 100,000, 1 million, 10 million results, and you're still number one.
Yeah.
That didn't change that. And every time anybody looks for it, you are still the source of that. And that is fascinating and wonderful to see how that's going. And I love that you're doing that with Fanocracy again, because it just makes so much sense. So David, talk to me, how do you define Fanocracy, please?
So a Fanocracy is simply when fans rule. And if I were to boil down the idea of Fanocracy to sort of one sentence, it's a true human connection. It's a true human connection. And I'll tell you sort of how this idea was birthed. 5 years ago, I was thinking to myself, wow, I am such a geek about the stuff that I love. I'm a live music fan. I've been to 780 live music shows. And I love especially the Grateful Dead, as I've mentioned. I've seen them 75 times. My daughter Reiko and I were in a car, and she's like, Daddy, I know I'm such a geek about Harry Potter. My daughter not only has read every book multiple times, seen every movie multiple times, gone to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter theme park in Orlando several times, gone to the UK to go on the studio tour, but she wrote a 90,000 word novel, an alternative ending to the Harry Potter series, where Draco Malfoy is a spy for the Order of the Phoenix, and she put that on a fan fiction site. It's been downloaded thousands of times, commented on hundreds of times. So she's a Harry Potter geek, certified. And what we realized is that this idea of us being fans is a really important part of our life. And yes, it's because we love the music. Yes, it's because we love the books and the films. But more than that, the core essence of it, Phil, is that we have true human connections with people who share that fandom with us. Those people are among our best friends. If I go to a Grateful Dead concert, I immediately, even if I don't know the people around me, have a tie to them. We're part of the same tribe of people. And we actually spoke with neuroscientists to learn that this idea of being part of a tribe is really important to humans because it's a survival technique. When you're part of a tribe, you feel much more comfortable in your daily life than if you're not. And we can also, of course, be parts of multiple tribes. I'm also a surfer, for example. That's another one of my tribes. But the other thing we looked at, it was very important for us to understand, is yes, of course there's fans of Harry Potter. Yes, of course there's fans of the Grateful Dead. But what about other types of organizations? How about nonprofits? How about B2B companies? How about enterprise software companies? How about doctors and lawyers and dentists? How about government agencies? And we found examples of all of these who have built fans, who have created tribes of people who share the love of this particular thing, whatever it might be. And I'll give you two real quick examples, my favorite examples, because they're surprising. The first one is a government agency that has tens of millions of fans. This government agency has 50 million followers on their Instagram. This government agency, you can be walking down a street anywhere on the planet, and you could perhaps run into somebody wearing a T-shirt from this government agency. I was in the Seychelles, a group of islands off the eastern coast of Africa, just north of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. And I was walking down a rural street. This was 3 weeks ago. And I ran into somebody who was wearing a NASA T-shirt. NASA has tens of millions of fans who proudly sport the logo on their T-shirts, on their ball caps, on the computers, whatever they have it. Another example, very surprising, Hagerty Insurance. They do auto insurance. What a horrible product auto insurance is. Nobody wants to buy it. No one wants to use it because it means they've crashed their car. And I spoke with McKeel Hagerty, the CEO of Hagerty Insurance. He goes, David, everyone hates my product. My product sucks. Nobody likes auto insurance. I couldn't do what everybody else does in the auto insurance business. I can't compete on price. I don't want to go down market. I can't compete with advertising. I don't want to compete with the geckos and the lizards who are out there spending a crap load of money on advertising. So what I did was I went out to create fans. And they've created fans for Hagerty Insurance. Hagerty does classic car auto insurance. They go every year to over 100 classic car events to meet with people who are already part of the tribe of classic car collectors, to educate them about different things around classic cars. They have 1 million followers on their YouTube channel. They have a Hagerty's Drivers Club with 650,000 members. They've developed fans, and they're now the biggest classic car insurance company on the planet. They do double-digit compound growth every year, and there's going to be 200,000 new customers who will join them this year. So you asked me a real simple question: what is a fanocracy? But there's so many cool elements of this that came about because we just love Harry Potter, we love the Grateful Dead, and we turned that into, anybody can build fans, even an auto insurance company, even a government agency.
Wow. So, I love those two examples, but I got to hear a B2B software. Come on, David, a B2B software company though? That's impossible. Who is that?
My favorite example is HubSpot. I mean, there's lots of examples. There's lots of examples, but my favorite example is HubSpot because I'm biased. Let me admit to you, because I think you know this, Phil. I'm on the advisory board. Yeah, I've been on the HubSpot advisory board since the very beginning, 2007. I joined their advisory board when they had no customers, eight employees and beta software only. Did I ever tell you how I met Brian Halligan, the CEO of HubSpot?
I think you told me, but I bet nobody else knows.
Let me refresh your memory, Phil. So I was invited to go meet with HubSpot in 2007. It was about 3 months after the new rules of marketing and PR had come out in the first edition. And they they invited me to come and meet with the management team. And I was really excited to do that. So I went and I sat down in the conference room. The management team came in. Brian Halligan was there, the CEO. I opened up my MacBook Pro. This is the very first minute that I met Brian. I opened up my MacBook Pro. I had a Grateful Dead sticker on it. And Brian said, "Oh my God, you're a Grateful Dead fan. How cool is that? I've been to 100 Grateful Dead concerts." I go, "Wow, I've been to 50 Grateful Dead concerts." And we had an instant bond in the very first minute that we met one another. So that's when, we after the meeting, we went out to lunch. Soon after, I think it was 2 weeks later, we went to a Phil Les show. Phil is the bassist from the Grateful Dead. So we geeked out about the Grateful Dead together. And Brian invited me to join the HubSpot advisory board. And I've been a member ever since. They've gone from 8 employees, no customers, to a $650 million in revenue. And they've got 3,000 employees now. And what's interesting to me is that Brian has done a fabulous job at building fans at HubSpot. Of course, the whole company is part of doing this. You go to their annual inbound conference, 25,000 people attend. There's millions of people who follow their social networking feeds. They've got HubSpot Academy that has had over 100,000 people go through their courses. There are a lot of fans of HubSpot out there. You see people wearing HubSpot t-shirts all over the place. And one of the things that they did that was remarkable as a way to grow fans is that they specifically went out to make their employees fans of HubSpot. They want their employees to love the company that they work for, because that's more likely to help those employees to then develop fans among their customers. And I'm amazed to have seen that just as we're recording this just a week ago, HubSpot was named by Glassdoor the #1 company in the entire country to work for, and that's rated by employees.
Wow.
So yeah, HubSpot is an enterprise software company that has developed a massive fan base, not only among their customers, ranked #1. Not only among their employees, ranked #1 in the country by their employees through Glassdoor, but also by their customers and their partners. People love HubSpot. So yeah, even enterprise software can have fans, Phil.
Love that. Love that. So I'm a fan of HubSpot too. I think I met Brian back in 2008 or 2009. So really smart guy, great team. Him and Dharmesh there have great stuff happening and really an awesome team.
So would you agree that they've built fans?
I totally would. And to your point, I think the most important piece of that is every employee is an ambassador. Every employee gets it. Every employee wants to be there, and if they don't, they leave. Like it doesn't always fit, right? That one.
That's true. That's true. There are some people who join, and a couple months or a year later, they leave for whatever reason. But if you buy in, you buy in, and they also have a really awesome. They call it alumni network, because they started in 2007, so it's 13 years later. There are quite a few people who have moved on. And in fact, many of the companies that have emerged out of HubSpot, Drift is a good example, people who are alumni of HubSpot who started new companies, and the executives of HubSpot often invest in those companies. So they pay very close attention to their former employees, who they call alumni. So really, really great job they're doing at building fans.
Definitely. Well, one of the things that you say in the book is to love things outside of work, is to make meaningful connections with like-minded people, which, that sounds like really nice and a great way to make friends. But how does that drive results, David?
We looked at the idea of passion. We looked at the idea of how people interact with the world. And one of my favorite quotes in our book, and the reason I can say this in a modest way is because my daughter wrote it. And the quote is this: passion is infectious. Passion is infectious. So when you have passion for the things that you love, Grateful Dead for me, for example, that passion is infectious, which is exactly why when I walked into HubSpot, Brian Halligan saw my Grateful Dead sticker. Cool. We share the same fandom. We share the same passion. Yes, I was going to a business meeting, but I was bringing my passion for what I love to do outside of business, which has actually become business because I wrote a book about the Grateful Dead with Brian Halligan. And so I think, Phil, it's BS to talk about work-life balance, because I think that the more you make your work your life and your life your work, the more that you're passionate about both, the better. A lot of people have a LinkedIn profile for work, a Facebook profile for business. That's sort of emblematic of this work-life being different things. But from what we've seen, when people bring the passions in their personal life, the sports team they love, the sport that they love to play, maybe they run a marathon, or the things that they are most passionate about doing on the weekend, when they bring those things to work and share that with other people, that's infectious, and that helps to grow fans. So I think we're entering into an era. We're entering into a new era of the 2020s. It's a new decade. I think it's going to be a decade of true human connection. I think it's going to be a decade where people are comfortable sharing their personal life in their professional setting. I think that if you walk into a business meeting and you say to someone, "What do you love to do on the weekends?" That's a valid question. And I think that on your social networks that are work related, you can share the stuff that you love to do outside of work.
I totally agree. I love all that you said there, but I've got a question though. So the digital world, like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter, I mean, they're cold, man. They're all about algorithms and manipulation and polarization and all this other crap that's manipulating our beliefs. They're pitting people against each other.
They're absolutely right. There's no question.
How does that impact Fanocracy, though, David?
There's no question about that, Phil. And that's actually an early part of the book. We talk about that. The cold polarization, the digital chaos that's going on out there. The people who have taken the ideas that you and I talked about as long as 15 years ago and abuse those channels. So I think there's a couple things that come to mind here. The first thing that comes to mind is we are all hungry for a true human connection. And we can create a true human connection by being more personal. We actually talked with neuroscientists about this idea, the idea that the closer you get to someone, the more powerful the human connection is. There's a neuroscientist named Edward T. Hall who talked about the different levels of proximity. Further than 20 feet is called public space. We don't really pay attention to people in public space. Social space from 20 feet to 4 feet, and personal space from 4 feet closer. The closer you get to personal space, the more our brains track those people. And so that's a powerful connection when you're with part of your tribe. You're with people who you love, people who you enjoy being with. That's a powerful connection. That's a survival technique for humans, because when we're with people that we know, we feel comfortable, and that's part of our tribe. When we're with people that we don't know, those are our brain tells us those are potential enemies. Like we walk into a crowded elevator, we feel uncomfortable. We walk into a room of friends, or we walk into a business event where everyone there is part of the same tribe. You feel great. So how can you bring that humanity to your work? Now, you asked about digital, and there's something interesting as well about within neuroscience that we can talk about here, and that's the concept of mirror neurons. So mirror neurons are the part of our brains that fire when we see someone do something as if we're doing it ourselves. And since we're on a video, I can demonstrate this. I have a lemon in one hand, a slice of lemon in the other. If I take a bite of this lemon, oh my gosh, it's powerful. My eyes close, my mouth scrunches up. This lemon on my tongue is really powerful. And my saliva glands are doing their thing, this tart lemon. And just by seeing that, Phil, and others who are watching, you are probably tasting a little bit of lemon too. That comes from mirror neurons. Because my brain is firing, I tasted that lemon, your brain fires a little bit too, just by seeing and hearing me talk about eating a lemon. So we can use this concept of mirror neurons in social networks to help build a fanocracy, to help be less cold. And here's how. You can use photos and videos. We're doing that right now. We're using video and crop it as if you're in personal space of someone within 4 feet. And our brains tell us that even though we know intellectually that we're looking at our video, our ancient brain kicks in through mirror neurons and says, you're actually in the same room with that person. That builds a true human connection. That explains why you feel you know personally a movie star. You've never met that movie star, but you feel like you know them. It also explains the selfie phenomenon of being one of the most popular forms of sharing on social networks is selfies, because your arm's 4 feet away. You're looking directly at the camera. Also kind of explains the rise of TikTok. So the more we can share photos and videos on our social networks, that mirror neurons kick in, people feel like they have a close relationship with you, the more we can develop fans in this cold, cruel digital world.
Awesome. So be more human, connect more real, get 4 feet away or less from the camera.
And it's rooted in neuroscience. We're hardwired to think that way. And you know the little secret, it's powerful. And you're naturally doing it, Phil. We're doing it right now. We're talking to one another over video and other people are able to see it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, David, the book is Fanocracy. It's a fantastic book. Folks can follow you on Twitter. They can catch up with you anywhere they want, fanocracy.com. But if you were to give one more tip for people as we close this down, what's one more tip that they can use right now to develop more of a fanocracy for themselves or their business?
So this is something you can do right away, and that is immediately take a look at your website. Take a look at your social feeds, take a look at your offline advertising brochures, whatever you have, eliminate all the stock photos and eliminate all the gobbledygook language like best of breed, cutting edge, mission critical, innovative, all those sorts of words. Because the more human you are, the more effective you are. Use real photos of real people cropped as if you're in their personal or social space, looking directly at the camera. Eliminate the stock photos that you pulled out of a model, out of a catalog. Pull the models out of your websites and your marketing materials. You'll do much better. And that's something you can do right now.
Awesome. Great advice. So, folks, if you get a chance, go pick up a copy of David's book, Fanocracy, out January 7th. You can't get it yet, but you absolutely can pre-order it. You can learn more about it. You can get an excerpt on fanocracy.com. That's FANOCRACY.com, fanocracy.com. Hope you enjoyed, folks. Have a fantastic day. And, David, as always, it is a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, Phil. I love having a chat with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, sir.